Chef Gail Sokol, and welcome to my kitchen. It's that time of year again, St. Patty's Day. So I came up with a really delicious cheesecake, and we've made cheesecakes before, but this is an Irish coffee cheesecake. So just picture enjoying an Irish coffee, but in a dessert, in a cheesecake. And it's scrumptious. So before we get started, I'd like you to click that notification button because I want you to become a subscriber. I don't want you to miss any of my tips or videos. I love having you in my kitchen and I love teaching you how to bake. All right, here we go. We're gonna start with a chocolate cookie crust. And before I even make that crust, I have taken a 9-inch springform pan, and springform pans come in all different shapes and styles. I covered it with foil, which is what we are going to do. This one sort of comes up from the bottom like that. Some have the clip on the sides. This is an older one, which I really like to go full back on sometimes. I have sprayed it bottom and sides with nonstick cooking spray. You can use oil, you can use whatever you like to grease your pans with. It just gives me a little bit more of insurance that this is going to come out beautifully. And then I took a big, large piece of heavy-duty foil, and I put this on because we don't want the batter leaking out from the bottom, and we're also going to be baking it in a hot water bath, or as the French would say, a bain-marie. So we are going to take a larger pan. This is a larger cake pan, and I'm going to put this in here, but we don't have to put it in right now because we don't have our batter yet. And then we're going to fill the outer, almost like a moat of a castle. We're going to fill the outside hot, a heat-proof pan with about quarter high up with hot water. So I've already boiled some water and it's ready to go. So the first thing we want to do is we want to bake our crust in our pan first. Just give it a little bit of a firmness to hold our batter first. So I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll have this on the side ready to go. And here I have about 22, you can use chocolate refrigerator cookies, Oreo cookies, anything you want. I did use Oreos here with the filling. I just kept everything together. I might have eaten one or two, okay. But I have about 22. I threw them in a food processor. If you don't have a food processor, get a meat mallet, get something like this, put them in a freezer bag, get your kids to come help you and just bash it until you get nice fine crumbs, okay? Either way, it's fun. This is approximately 2 cups of crumbs, of any type of cookie crumbs. If you don't like Oreos, use something else. You can even use graham cracker crumbs, whatever you want. I have 5 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter, and I'm going to put this right in here and mix it up so that it looks almost like wet sand. And it shouldn't be too wet, but we are going to bake it up a little bit so that the crumbs get a little bit firm. All right. And I have this measuring cup here so that once I put my crumbs into my pan, I can press it in really hard. And if the harder you press, the firmer the sides and the bottom crust will be, and it will make for a cleaner slice. I've always found that it actually, even in bar cookies, if your bottom layer, which is usually a crumb, will actually do much, much better if it's been pressed. So you can see this is almost like a wet sand, okay? Let's go to the beach. Oh, almost. So I'm gonna take my springform pan, my false bottom pan, and I'm just gonna dump my crust components in here, okay? And I'm just gonna take everything out of my spoon. Normally, if you weren't here, I might take a spoonful, but I won't do that. I'll be good. I'll be good. And then I'm gonna take I'm just gonna jiggle it up. The less you handle it, the better, because your hands are going to actually attract the crust, and that will not be good. So you're not going to be able to go up all the sides, but you're going to be able to go up just a little bit of the side. So use this to push against the side of the springform pan. And sometimes I like to do the side first, and then I can actually fill in the bottom. And sometimes you do have to have your hands help you. Do not grease this cup or whatever you use, because the crumbs will stick more to the cup than the bottom. So I'm going to continue pushing this across the bottom and maybe up, maybe about an inch up the sides. If you don't want to put it up the sides, you don't have to, but it's really pretty if you just get a little bit up the sides. You're not going to get a lot, but this is what I've got so far. If you see any holes like this, just push the crumbs away so you don't have any more holes showing through. And then I'm going to bake it for 10 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, I'll see you back. So my chocolate cookie crust came out of the oven. It's beautiful. When it comes out, it looks wet. Do not get upset. It will firm up and harden, much like a cookie does when it comes out of the oven. The other thing is, if you feel like it's sunk down a little, take a teaspoon and just gently push against the sides and it will come back up. But it's only about an inch on the sides. It's not going to be fully up the sides of the pan. All right, so I'm putting that in my larger pan. I'm not using a roasting pan. I'm using a larger cake pan for my bain-marie. Now we get to make our delicious filling. So the first thing we're going to do is put 1 cup of granulated sugar into an electric mixing bowl. And you really do need an electric mixing bowl because you really want a smooth cheesecake. And it's hard to do by hand. If any of you are doing it by hand, I want to know about it. You can do it, but it's not going to be as smooth as if you had an electric mixer. I'm going to get the sugars going. So I have 1 cup of granulated sugar, like I said, and then 1/3 cup of light brown sugar. All right, and I pack that, but I want to mix them. Brown sugar sometimes gets hard, so you want to make sure that it's covered until you use it. And if there's any little hard bits, you may have to push them through a sieve or soften them in some way. So I'm going to get that going. And once that is done, I'm going to take my paddle off. All right. And then I'm going to add 3 8-ounce containers, 3 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. And I softened the cream cheese. If your cream cheese isn't soft, put it in the microwave for a little while. This is nice and soft, okay? Don't use 1/3 less fat. Try to use the full shebang, because it really will make a difference in the taste of your cheesecake. If you must make a low-fat cheesecake, what I have done is used maybe 1 package of 1/3 less fat, and it should be fine. So I'm going to get that going. Now this cheesecake batter, it takes time. You can't rush it. If you rush it, you'll get lumps and bumps in your cheesecake. And when I was 11, I made my first cheesecake for my grandparents. It was a chocolate cheesecake from a recipe from the chef that served President Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy and in their White House. And she showed me how, not she personally, but her cookbook showed me how to make a chocolate cheesecake, and I did not let my cream cheese get to room temperature, so it was like bumps of cream cheese throughout. And in a chocolate cheesecake, that's obvious. I was embarrassed, but you know what? I learned. So we're nice and smooth now. You can see how smooth? But this is where you say, okay, we're going to clean off the paddle. We're going to get every little bump and lump. Okay, around the sides. You really want to get around the sides and on the bottom of your pan. Okay, really get around, because we want a smooth cheesecake. So give yourself some time. Don't rush it. Don't run out of the house and say, I'm just going to throw my cheesecake in the oven. This takes tender love and care. So I'm just going to put that, let that go for a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to add our flavoring ingredients. So remember, Irish coffee, you gotta have coffee. So I have 2 tablespoons, and you can be a little, liberal with your coffee. So I have 2 tablespoons of instant espresso. You can use any type of coffee you want, but it should be instant because you want it to dissolve. And then 4 tablespoons, that's 1/4 cup of Irish whiskey. You can use any type, any brand you want, but Irish whiskey is different than regular whiskey that you would get because it smells sweeter. It has almost a vanilla smell to it. It is light and really would go beautifully in this dessert. So you really want to make sure you get Irish whiskey. So 4 tablespoons, I want to let that coffee dissolve. And then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. So now my coffee is dissolved in my Irish whiskey with the vanilla, and I'm stirring just until the coffee is dissolved. And now I'm going to go back to my creamy mixture with sugar, and I'm going to add 1/4 cup of cornstarch. That's our thickening agent. Some people like to use flour. I'm going to use cornstarch, and then we're going to just get that mixed in. And then we're going to put in our coffee mixture once this blends in. Okay? Woo! Little puff of powder there, a little cornstarch. All right, you may want to stop just to get that cornstarch off the sides. Again, this is a cheesecake. We do not want to leave anything to make a lump or bump. We want a nice smooth cheesecake. So give it a whirl. Lower it, and now we're going to add, and this has to be on low speed because you will wear it. I'm going to pour this in Irish whiskey, coffee, and that'll make a really nice color, sort of a golden color. And when you make Irish coffee, you tend to use brown sugar to sweeten your coffee. So scrape the bottom so you get all that deliciousness in there. So this is, oh, I can smell it. Oh my goodness. I might be swooning a little. It looks beautiful. It's got a really nice golden caramel color. I'm going to show you in a second. And then on low speed, I'm going to add 2 eggs, 1 at a time. So I'm going to add the yolk. I usually crack them in a cup with a spout on it because I don't want to get any shell. So I want to check, make sure there's no shell. I want you to, on low speed, low to medium speed, I want you to get that egg in there before you add the last egg. Okay, it looks beautiful. Wait till you see it. All right, last egg in. Give it a final whirl. Really looks good. All right, I'm going to go around the outside again. Okay, you really want to do this several times. Don't be, shy about doing that. You really want to get everything in here, all the ingredients blended in, okay, and no lumps and bumps. We like smooth cheesecakes. All right, now whirl it around. Okay. Wait till you see this. Beautiful, beautiful batter. All right. Put that over here. Isn't that gorgeous? It almost looks like, it looks like coffee, but it looks like the color of like caramel. It's so beautiful. Okay. So I'm going to shake it off of there. So you can actually keep it in your larger pan if you want, but I'm going to go around like I always do. On the bottom, get all that cornstarch, anything that you might have missed or not seen. So when I was talking to you, maybe I missed a little bit of the cornstarch. Just get that in there. Go around. You see that beautiful color? And that's a really nice, smooth cheesecake batter. All right, I'm putting it in. I'm going to pour it in. Oh, I'm going to pour it in to my beautiful chocolate cookie crumb crust. And then we're going to smooth it out. I'm going to get all this good stuff in. I'm going to scrape this around the edges. Get everything. You know Chef Gail gets all that batter in. Okay? Okay. Our oven is still on. I've maintained the temperature of 350 degrees. I'm going to scrape this off a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is, you know how I sort of move things around like a clock? I'm going to take an offset spatula and I'm just going to go around so that I can smooth everything out. So almost like the offset spatula is the hand of a clock. And I'm going to go, you can go clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. And just get it so that it's completely level. All right, we want it level. All right. Okay, we are done. Don't scrape it down the sides, okay? Make sure you don't do that because you want a nice clean cheesecake. It's going to go in your pan. Give me 1 second to rinse my fingers. Hold on. So I put my pan in my roasting pan or my larger baking pan, and it's got a little room here. So I'm going to put this on the middle rack of my oven, which is still at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to add some hot water from my tea kettle or any way you get your hot water, microwave it or whatever. And I'm going to pour it so it's only about a quarter up the side of the cheesecake, the pan holding the cheesecake batter. And that's going to cause this more even baking so that the eggs don't curdle in your cheesecake. And you're going to bake it for 55 to 60 minutes so that when you shimmy shake that cheesecake, only the center should be slightly jiggly, then take it out and take it out of the pan with the water and let it cool. All right, so my cheesecake came out of the oven. I have allowed it to cool, and now we're going to put a thin ganache, whiskey added layer. And so I have already done this. I took half a cup of heavy cream, 1 tablespoon of light corn syrup, and I'm putting in 1 tablespoon of Irish whiskey. You can use a little more if you want, a little less if you want, but don't overdo it because you really want it to firm up. So I'm just going to whisk the chocolate. I brought my cream and my light corn syrup to a boil, and then I am putting in 2/3 cup of high quality chocolate chips. So that's half a cup of heavy cream brought to a boil with a tablespoon of light corn syrup. And then I added 2/3 cup of high quality semi-sweet chocolate chips, and I'm whisking it in until it is melted. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of that really nice Irish whiskey. Remember, it's lighter. It's got a little hint of vanilla to it. And once we pour it over our cheesecake, we're going to have to chill this because then we're going to top it just like an Irish coffee with whipped cream. That's also been infused with a little Irish whiskey. This is an adult-only cheesecake. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So you see this? I've got this nice ganache. It's a little thin, but it's going to go over our cheesecake, and then it's going to go right into the fridge. So I'm going to pour. All right, I'm going to gently pour it around, all around the top. All right. Beautiful. Just let it do its thing. Let it just work its. I'm not even going to spread it because I don't have to. It is good. So I'm just going to get that all in there. And now to the fridge until the ganache is hard and the cheesecake is nice and cold. Irish coffee cheesecake is coming out of my pan. And what I did was I took a can that was smaller than the diameter of the springform pan, and I'm just pushing gently, and I've chilled it so it's now nice and cold. And I'm just pushing and pushing. Be gentle. There we go. So this is our beautiful cheesecake. It's still on the bottom. If you wanted to make it as a gift, what I would recommend is using a cardboard cake circle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little whipped cream, which is what you would do when you had an Irish coffee. So in my electric mixing bowl, I beat 2 cups of cold heavy cream, about 2 tablespoons of confectioner's sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, and a little Irish whiskey. So you can add up to a tablespoon of Irish whiskey. Don't add too much, but add what you feel comfortable with and beat it until stiff peaks form. All right? And then I'm going to get all my whipped cream in a pastry bag fitted with a star tip, very large star tip. You don't have to do this, but I think I want to make it a little prettier. Then I took a teaspoon of cocoa powder, unsweetened cocoa powder, and about a half a teaspoon of instant espresso. Because again, we're trying to make this Irish coffee theme. So I'm just going to do a little bit of some rosettes around my whipped cream. And we're just, doing it almost like a clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and just sort of go do what you feel, trying to fill it in, doing little half curls in between. And then I'm going to add the rest right now. And there's a reason why I want to, because I want to cover the whole thing. I really want it to basically scream, Irish coffee cheesecake. So I really want to get that notion into people's heads that this is what we're serving, this beautiful Irish coffee. I'm going to get the excess out. And I'm just going to do, okay, we get that little air pocket. That's fine. Okay, and just cover the ganache. That'll be like a little surprise when people cut into it. Look how pretty that is. All right, and you just fill in any chocolate that you might see. All right, and now I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm just going to put it in here. And I'm just going to dust. Does that look nice? Sort of dusting. So you get that little cocoa and you get that coffee. And I'm not looking for a mocha. I'm looking for an Irish coffee. And inside the cheesecake, you're going to get that really big wow of coffee and that Irish whiskey. Not to mention the whipped cream. Not to mention the ganache. Everything is infused with Irish whiskey. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And now we're going to cut into it. I'm not waiting. I can't wait. I'm very impatient, but it's so pretty. So I'm going to cut in. Normally, I would have chilled this a little more with the whipped cream, but it's just you and I, right? So I'm going to go right through the middle. And you want to really get through that crust. You can see that. I'm going to cut a nice big piece, right? I want to cut you a nice big piece. You deserve a nice big piece. So I'm going to make sure you get around that beautiful center. That's lovely. I'm going to put it on my plate and I'm going to offer it to you. I hope you make this beautiful Irish coffee cheesecake. It smells beautiful. I hope you enjoy celebrating St. Patrick's Day. And if you don't, make the cheesecake anyway. It's scrumptious. And I want you to become a subscriber. Until next time.